Well, hey there, I'm Dr. Tom Ulrich, and I like to talk about leadership and engineering. Hey, in this video, this is part 3 of a series of 4 videos in which I describe the results of my PhD dissertation. And in the previous videos, what I talked about is the impact of an angry leader upon the people that they lead. And then I did one on the impact of a stressed leader or leader's stress on the people they lead. And this one is on the impact of a leader's sadness. Now, for all 4 emotions in an upcoming video, I'll be doing one on leader happiness. By the way, the links are down below. You can get those. Hey, while we're talking about stuff down below, if you don't mind subscribing, that'd help me out. If you don't mind giving me a like, and if you give me some comments, I'll comment back. And if you have something you want a video on, go ahead and hit that. I'll make a video for you on that topic. Any rate, the idea was of the dissertation was to look at how a leader's emotions affect the people that they follow. Now, the bounded case study particularly looked at software testers, and we looked at really at 2 levels. First was the impact on the individual, as well as the impact on the what's called error management culture. Sometimes it's known as patient safety culture. And what that is the degree to which a group, the mind frame of the group is like willing to admit that everybody makes mistakes and that we need to plan for them. And so in some groups, you have people who say, well, yeah, we're human. We're going to make mistakes. So let's first of all come up with ways to reduce the probability of making a mistake. And second, let's come up with mitigation so when we do inevitably make mistakes, the impact are less. Now, what that body of research has overwhelmingly found is that groups that believe they don't make mistakes make significantly more mistakes. And kind of the classic one is in the patient safety culture literature, a lot of them study surgeons, and basically the arrogant surgeon who says, I don't make mistakes. Those guys are profoundly more likely to kill somebody with a mistake than people who say, well, of course we make mistakes, let's mitigate it. At any rate, so I wanted to look at the effect of leader sadness on both levels. Now, when I started the dissertation, I had some hunches. I kind of thought, this is how these emotions will work out, and that was kind of based on somewhat on the literature, but also just on personal experience. And, with the leader anger and the leader stress, those mostly turned out like I thought. There was not any real surprise other than to sort of provide a body evidence that says, if you're an engineering manager and you're constantly angry, that's bad for the group, both in terms of ability to do their job and job retention and all these things. And same thing with the stress. When you're a stress leader, that's really has a profoundly negative effect. With leader sadness, I was really surprised because what I was thinking was it wouldn't have a very big effect, certainly not a big negative effect. And part of the reason I thought that is we already know that when you're doing analytical work, the optimum emotion is sort of being somber or slightly sad. And so, being an engineer, there's always times when you're doing analytical work, equations, whatnot, and you kind of already know that the thing to do is put on some quiet, maybe a little bit sad music, and that helps you focus. And so I was thinking, maybe leader sadness will help a little bit, or certainly it won't be a big negative. It won't be as negative as the other two. What I found was quite the opposite. I found a profoundly negative impact of leader sadness. So to get the backstory, what you have to understand is, I'm one of the original employees of Tandem Diabetes Care. Only one person's been there longer than I have. And so it's gone from the whole company could fit in Mike Rosinko's Camry to now we're this big company. And along the way, as companies grow, there's inevitably reorganizations, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the kind of leader that's good when a company is small is generally not the kind of leader that's good when the company's large. And so what normally happens is at some point as the company grows, the original leaders get put in new roles. And for most of the original leaders, they, basically got mad and left. What I did is I stayed and, kind of accepted a new role. And that turned out great because in that role, I played a key role in our Control IQ technology. But make no mistake about it, that left me really in a sad frame of mind for a couple of years. I was just really just sad about the whole thing. At any rate, so when the Control IQ thing started, I was then this individual contributor, and I was the one that took this big bloated algorithm that took gigabytes of memory in the Android phone, and we had to get it to fit in our little pump that has limited resource. And I spent months doing that and getting it just right. And then I led the development effort and then led the testing effort. And that last part's what's critical. So I led this effort of a lot of the people that were in this study. Meanwhile, there was another manager who kind of went through the same sort of thing. He ended up getting removed from leadership, and he also was very sad. So when I was doing the interviews, what I was expecting was the people would be talking about those people over there. I didn't think they'd talk about me or my friend. They would be talking about other people. And what I found was they were talking about me, and they were talking about my friend. And the great news is, what this confirms is I did a good job of helping them feel safe so they could tell me how they really feel, as opposed to, one of the dangers of research is people tell you what they think you want to hear. Well, this is definitely not what I wanted to hear. They felt comfortable telling me. And what they did is they described what a profoundly negative effect my sadness had on them. And I didn't think anybody knew. I thought I was being professional. Certainly, if you look at the quality work, you look at the success of Control IQ, I did a pretty good job. I didn't know anybody even realized how down I was about it. And it turns out they all did. So, and what was really interesting was, at least with the angry leader, what happened is people actually reported being able to find more bugs. Some of them were destroyed by the anger and just, almost, unable to function. Others said, well, I was having trouble focused, and when the boss got angry, it got me to focus, and I actually did my job better. And with the stress leader, it was kind of similar, and actually with anger and stress, both groups, the people reported actually being more creative with the angry and stress bosses, although they reported a lot of that creativity had to do with dealing with their boss's emotion. With the sad leader, there simply was no upside. With anger, and make no mistake about it, the net effect of the angry boss is terrible. The net effect of the stress boss is terrible. But the net effect of the sad boss is just as bad, but there's no upside. All right, for ability to find bugs, some people said no impact, some said down. Ability to think creatively, some said no impact, some said down. For ability to think analytically, some said no impact, some said down. And ability to learn, some said no impact, some said down. So there was nothing positive at the individual level. Now, when you look at the error management culture, what we found is, in terms of the willingness to admit errors, well, for some people, no difference, other people down. Now, that was also true of the angry leader and the stress leader. But the interesting thing was the reasons given were quite different. For the angry leader and the stressed leader, it was sort of a sense of self-preservation. They were afraid that the angry leader would explode on them. So you had these testers that they thought if they report a bug, the person will get all mad at them, which is weird because the testers didn't cause the bug. They're doing the leader a favor by finding the bugs before you release the product. And then in terms of, but the sad leader, they also were hesitant. Now, none of them said they wouldn't report it, but they talked about being hesitant. And the reason was quite different. They said, it's a little bit like kicking a man when he's down. You could see he's sad, don't really want to pile on. So it was actually kind of a compassionate motive instead of a self-preservation motive, but it was the same thing. There was a little bit of a pause before being, reporting a bug. And you don't want that with software testers. You want people to be free. With willingness to discuss errors, and particularly willingness to discuss error somebody else made, with a sad leader, that actually went down. And willingness to help coworkers, that actually went up a little bit. And the idea there was, it was kind of like, wow, he's in a bad place. Like, let's not interrupt him. Let's solve it ourselves. And then willingness to trust, that actually went down. So the good news is I didn't see any evidence that people actually didn't report bugs. but it did introduce this sort of pause and do I really want to do it and that kind of thing, which is, clearly a bad idea. So up until these results, I think if you had said to me, like sometimes, these leadership speakers will be all like, you need to be upbeat, you need to be the life force of the organization, and I would kind of dismiss that as BS and just a cheerleader and no substance and stuff. What my dissertation suggests then is there's actually something to it. It's not just shallowness. That when you're down. That actually has more of an impact. People are more aware of it than you realize. And so the takeaway is if you're going through something and you may not even realize your people know about it, but if you're in kind of this dark place, you need to fix that. As a leader, you owe it to your people to get the help you need, to do something to snap out of it or something, but people do notice. Any rate, so that's what I found in Leader Sadness, and I hope that helped. Hey, as I said before, if you don't mind, if you give me a subscribe or a like, that'd be great. Comment, I'll respond back. If you want to find more videos, I've got some links down below. I've got links to the other videos on leader emotion and other things. And on my website, Tom Ulrich Consulting, I've got links to everything. And then also on YouTube, you can just simply search on Dr. Tom Ulrich, and that'll find my videos. Any rate, hey, thanks for listening. I'm Dr. Tom Ulrich, the Engineering Leadership Guy, and we'll talk to you next time.